If you're an obliviously pretentious, physical media-loving film boy like me, then you probably know that the Barnes & Noble 50% off Criterion sale is happening right now. If you're watching this video outside of the time of the sale, don't worry, they usually have this sale like twice a year. Criterion constantly has 24-hour 50% off flash sales on their website, just sprinkled throughout the year also. These sales always intimidate me because I'm never like 100% sure what to get. Do I go for something I've never heard of? What if I end up not liking it? Do I get another film from a director whose stuff I've already seen, but I want to give other directors a chance? Maybe I step out of American films and I try something from another country, but what if I end up not understanding it? These are legitimate questions and they plague my brain while I am scrolling aimlessly through the Criterion website for 4+ hours trying to find something to buy. I even have a list on my phone of titles that I want to buy, and I even put them into an app that would randomly select one for me, which kind of works, but then I feel like I'm making an alternate timeline where somewhere out in the universe there's another Cody that is happier with their decision than the decision that me, Cody, made. Does that make sense? I'm genuinely asking, does this make sense? Anyways, that's me. That's how my brain works when it comes to these Criterion sales. And usually what I end up doing is I go to my friends for advice, ask them what they think I might like, go to them for recommendations, which honestly is the best way to do it because there's no better sales pitch than a movie recommendation from one of your closest friends. And I know you and I might only be acquaintances, but I have some movie recommendations if you'd like to hear them. Something that could maybe start off your Criterion collection or just some things to add to it. First up, Paris, Texas. Directed by Wim Wenders, Paris, Texas is a profoundly intimate look at love. The love between father and son, the pursuit of and the heartbreak that comes with lost love. At least that's what I got out of it. Off the jump, this film hits you with some stunning cinematography. The camera flies in like the wind, capturing beautiful wides of the open, endless desert. The colors pop off the screen: red hat, blue bottle cap, pink sunburnt skin. It's eye candy. My first time watching this, the mix of these opening shots and the score are really what hooked me in. The score. Dude, you could teach an entire masterclass on how to set tone and location with music from this one score alone. Composer Ry Cooder made something special with this score. The twang of the guitar pierces through the screen and adds such a heavy blues feels to the whole movie, which works for this movie because this movie is blue. Harry Dean Stanton gives a subtle yet career-defining performance in this, and he doesn't say a word for like the first 30 minutes of the movie. Dean Stockwell, rest in peace, is the perfect yin to Stanton's yang, the ability to show the emotions of love and compassion while being utterly confused and at odds with the person you're trying to show love and compassion to. It isn't an easy act to pull off. And the little kid, Hunter, listen dude, child actors are hit and miss. Most of the time a miss, but Hunter here crushed it. His character is such a perfect safe place in comparison to the moral turmoil and drama going on around him. The last act of this movie alone is worth the price of admission, or at least the price of a half-off Blu-ray. Speaking of the Blu-ray, there's a lot of super cool special features on this thing, a lot of audio commentaries from the director and actors, a lot of archival behind-the-scenes stuff and interviews that I find super interesting. So yeah, Paris, Texas. When I decided to take the step into foreign cinema, it was hard to decide where to go because there's great films everywhere, so that's where I went. I watched Japanese films, Korean films, German films, Italian films, but the one region of film that I found to be the easiest transition, I guess, from English-speaking films to foreign language films is French. That's just a me thing. Yours could be something totally different. You can watch whatever you want. They're all great. I'm just a huge fan of French films. I especially love the films of Jean-Luc Godard. I hope that's how you say that. I'm not French. I've only been doing Duolingo for like 35 days. But you really can't go wrong with picking any of his movies. Weekend, Contempt, Every Man for Himself. They're all pretty great. But the one that I like the most and the one that I think would be a good pick if you're starting a collection is Breathless. Breathless is a staple in the French New Wave cinema space. It really launched French directors like Godard and Melville into some mainstream fame, even over here in America. Breathless is kind of a weird one. It sells itself as a dramatic crime thriller, but in reality it's a comedic crime thriller. There's a lot of jokes in this film, in the dialogue, the performances, even the music has a very whimsical feel to it. It's a classic, it's a staple in the history of French cinema. If this sounds like something you're interested, I recommend Breathless. The Blu-ray also comes with this super thick booklet, just like full of art and interviews that are super interesting to read through, especially while you're watching the movie. It's a very good accompaniment. So yeah, I recommend breakfast. I almost said breakfast. So yeah, I recommend Breathless. So maybe you're one of the people watching this video who are interested in starting a Criterion collection, selling your soul to the cult of Criterion. and you don't really know where to start, my honest suggestion is do what I did. Look up and see if an existing movie that you already love is on the Criterion collection and start from there. I remember wanting to start my collection and scrolling through names of directors and movies and actors that I'd never even heard of. I was lost in this art house cacophony that is the Criterion website. But then one name cut through like a lighthouse guiding a ship through the midnight dark waters of film collecting. And his name was Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson. This is where I'm going to put a picture of Wes. Do you know who Mac DeMarco is? He's an artist. Well, one time Chris said that Wes Anderson is the Mac DeMarco of the film industry, and I'll never forget that. Anyways, I already knew who Wes Anderson was. I had seen a bunch of his movies, and they had almost all of his movies in the Criterion collection. And then I saw not only my favorite Wes Anderson movie, but one of my favorite movies of all time, and that's the Darjeeling Limited. My recommendation of this film does not come lightly. This is a very special movie to me. It's one of those movies that I'll never forget where I was or who I was with when I watched it for the first time. I'm not even 100% sure how to explain it, but this movie made a huge impact on me. It changed the way I looked at character writing. It shook everything I once knew about how you could tell a story. And it's not even Wes Anderson's most stylistic film. If anything, this is one of his more tame films. It's not immediately stamped with that coined Wes Anderson look. To me, the theme of this movie changes each time I watch it, and I think that's one of the reasons I love it, because as soon as you think you get the bigger picture, something happens in the movie that flips your idea on its head. Also, each frame of this movie is a painting, which isn't something new to be said about Wes Anderson films. I just feel like I should mention it because I would genuinely print out each frame from this movie and use it as wallpaper in my house. Owen Wilson, Adrian Brody, and Jason Schwartzman bring new life into the role of estranged brothers, exchanging typical character cliches for grounded, realistic dialogue and hilarious banter that cuts through dramatic moments with perfect comedic timing. This is the first Criterion movie I ever bought, and I do not regret it. So I suggest you do the same. Think of a movie that you love, see if there's a Criterion for it, and I highly recommend buying it. That would be the best way to start your collection. I don't know how to start this. I don't know how to start this next section. Do you like courtroom dramas? Put a finger down if you've ever been to court. Courtroom dramas. I love them. I'm a sucker for them. They're some of my favorite subgenre of movie. Primal Fear, Michael Clayton, I love them all. But if you're like me and you like those kind of movies, you should check out either Anatomy of a Murder or 12 Angry Men. I suggest both because I know a lot of people have watched 12 Angry Men whenever they were in high school. So Anatomy of a Murder, if you haven't seen that. Anatomy of a Murder and 12 Angry Men, both long, dialogue-heavy, slow-burn legal dramas with high stakes and gripping stories. Both films bringing holes in the American justice system to light and continuing to stay relevant to today's political landscape. Both of these Blu-rays come with some super cool archival interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, so if these type of movies are your things, I highly recommend them. Now, I know some of you might be saying, Cody, I don't want anything fancy. I don't want an art house film. I don't want some foreign movie that's going to put me to sleep, okay? I just want something new, something I haven't seen before, but I still want it to hold up to my American values. Then you might like Blowout. Released in 1981, Brian De Palma's Blowout stars John Travolta as a Hollywood sound effects maker who one night accidentally records the audio of a political assassination, thus throwing him down a rabbit hole of conspiracy, murder, and borderline insanity. Will he discover the truth before anyone can get to him? I recommend this movie to everyone. I fell in love with it the first time I watched it and love it even more after every viewing. I don't want to give too much away because this one's full of twists and surprises. Just trust me with this one. Also, I think in September they're releasing a 4K version if that's more your thing. So check it out when that comes out. The Blu-ray, though, comes with this hour-long interview with De Palma and Noah Baumbach. I think that's how you say his last name. And it's a super interesting interview. I found myself wanting it to continue. I was like, these two should have a podcast because I could listen to them talk about movies all day. It was just two film boys talking about film and I loved it. Blowout, baby. Check it out. Check out Blowout. Action. John Lithgow. John Travolta. This movie's full of Johns. Okay, last one. Last one I'm going to talk about today, and then you get to go home. High and Low by Akira Kurosawa. This isn't my favorite Kurosawa film, but I definitely think it's one of his more underrated ones, which is why I'm going to recommend this one. But to be honest, pick up any Kurosawa film and you're not going to hate it. Kurosawa masters the limited space setting, especially in the first half of this film. Everything is so tight and claustrophobic. It really is a masterclass in set design and camera work. And all of these elements add to the suspenseful ticking clock element of the film. There's also some heavy social commentary about class structure, especially in like the Japanese corporate world. This movie's also kind of like split down the middle. The first half, super suspenseful ticking clock. The second half, like a gripping police investigation. Again, I don't want to give too much away because the story's really incredible and I'd love for you to witness it for yourself. But overall, if you're looking to dip your toes into the Japanese film world, I suggest High and Low or really any Kurosawa film. They're all pretty great. That's where I'll stop with the suggestions because I don't want to leave you with too many recommendations to where you're back at square one and don't know what to pick. And here's the thing. I'm going to get serious for a second. Let me, cut away all the glitz and glamour. Let me get real for a second. I love recommending movies. It's one of my passions. I love telling friends about movies. I love telling strangers about movies. But movie going, especially with stuff like the Criterion Collection, it's kind of something you have to feel out and do by yourself to some degree because you're only going to be able to know what you like. The Criterion Collection is a great place to test your taste because honestly, everything they have is great. Every purchase I've made from the Criterion Collection, I have not regretted. And I don't think you would either. At least I hope you wouldn't. Don't quote me on that. You should really take these sales, like the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale, as an opportunity to try something you've wanted to try or try something new without the risk of wasting a bunch of money. But again, I haven't regretted a single one of my purchases from the Criterion Collection, and I don't think you would either. My name is Cody Metcalf. Thank you for watching. Go watch some movies.